G'day. It's time to down your unders. Review and dissection of content from some of the sharpest minds in the game. Hosted by Adam Camilleri. Art of War. Down Under.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this beautiful, wonderful return to your Grotmas Detachment review episodes. This one, I have the beautiful and wonderful, lovely, delightful, amazing painter, amazing player, triple threat Sascha Edelkraut joining me. Hello, mate. How you doing?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much for having me tonight, Adam.
And this is the first segment on the show, Sascha, so I do need to introduce the rest of the players on this one. I will be joined by the incredible Tony V, Anthony Vanella, to help me review the Creations of Bile, and then I have Skari, the Scarred One, for Drukhari with the Reaper's Wager up next after him. So you can enjoy three absolute top shelf players giving me the lowdown on these three Grotmas detachments. And this is being recorded well ahead of time because I'm recording this before I head off to LVO. So yeah, this is well into the future. So if anything wild has happened at LVO, and Drukhari have won like LVO or something, and we didn't mention it, yeah, cool, whatever. But of course, there'll be two parts to every one of these segments. You can come join us over at Art of War Down Under over on Patreon and get that goodness, and hopefully you will join us there. But we are here to review the Librarius Conclave. Sascha, what are your hot takes on this detachment? How do you feel about it?
I love it. I have played a couple games with it. Although I'm a Black Templar player at heart, my army is painted as Imperial Fists. So whenever I get an excuse to play them as fists, I do. And this detachment has given something unique back to Space Marines, which is a stratagem, Sensory Assault, which I think is one of the best strats in the book, which gives a -2 penalty to move, advance, and charge, which gives your army the ability to pick a unit that's a melee-focused unit and just take it out of the game to round off the round.
Yeah. One CP, don't have to worry about that this turn. It's huge, absolutely huge. Yeah. It's one of those. This makes the army kind of stratagems. Now, when this came out, a lot of people saw this, and I initially saw this on my first pass through. I was just like, it seems like you get very strong things, but it feels like Gladius with extra steps because you only really get bonuses on units that have psychers in them. And so you're almost paying a pseudo tax on top of what you would get in Gladius because you have to pay for, a psyker to join your unit to do the thing when you can just have them, 5 intercessors with a psyker is 100 more points than 5 intercessors in Gladius without a psyker who can do some similar things. But you and I had talked about this in the green room, yeah? And you've got a hot take that this is actually kind of just as good as Gladius in your mind.
I definitely think so. I don't necessarily think it will make every single list equally good. So if you build a list, you cannot just simply say, I'm playing this list in Gladius or I'm playing it in Librarian Conclave. You definitely got to build towards it. But the games I played felt really good, and it made units that are usually not the best significantly better, about all with the new change to Oath, which I think we're going to touch base on once we start to review the stratagems and the units. I think that combined really well with this detachment is having access to +1 to wound, and then the buffs that this detachment gives you kind of balance out the benefits that Gladius gives you. And I think there's a lot of play here. And I think we can even then talk a little bit about the Nottingham GT results, which Innes did amazing again. And he took a unit which I've been taking, which I think has completely disappeared, which is Desolation Marines.
I was about to say, does it start with the letter D and end in desolation?
Exactly. And I think in Librarius Conclave, they have a huge play.
I agree.
And we'll get to that.
All right, so first up, the detachment rule. I will be doing all of the reading. Sascha will be doing all of the hot takes and giving you guys the lowdown. Psychic disciplines is the detachment rule. At the start of the battle round, select one of the following psychic disciplines. To the end of the battle round, that psychic discipline is inactive for all Adeptus Astartes psychic units from your army, and its effects apply, of course. The 5 of them that you have is Biomancy, so +2 to move. Divination is reroll once to hit, once to wound, shooting and combat. Pyromancy is if you are targeting a unit within 12 inches, improve AP by 1. Only range attacks though, so you don't get it immediately. Telekinesis is each time a range attack targets this unit, subtract 1 from the strength of that attack. And then telepathy. Each time a model in this unit makes an attack, you can ignore any or all modifiers to weapon skill, ballistic skill, and or any hit modifiers. Now, the caveat here is, of course, only affects Psyche units, but the other caveat here is, unlike Gladius, these things can affect your game. You can pick the same one every single turn, all 5 turns. You can stay in that one the entirety of the game, which gives you a lot of freedom to build which one of these you prioritize the most into your meta as being the thing you want to stay in for, 3 out of 5 turns, 2 out of 5 turns, so to speak. And that's pretty free. That's very freeing, isn't it, Sascha?
It is. It just lets you pick one rule. Like what this really is you build your army knowing that you're going to pick one of these, which, let's be honest, is pretty much always going to be divination, which lets your army reroll hits of 1 and wound roll of 1. And maybe sometimes you throw in biomancy turn 1 or turn 5 when you need that +2 movement to reach a critical objective or to score a secondary, or to make that charge to get behind enemy lines or something. So it gives you a bit of flexibility, but it's really built to, you build your army around the rule that 3 or 4 units, maybe 5 units are going to get, and make those units much more reliable, and then has a little tool for like an early or late game for those units.
Now, as far as I can tell, there's 3 unspecial character data sheets that this is pretty much telling you have to take. That's the Phobos Librarian, the Librarian Terminator Armor, and the Libby on foot. Yeah. Apart from that, there is, say, an Ezekiel for Dark Angels. There's, of course, what's his face for Ultramarines,
Tigurius.
Tiggy for Ultramarines. And that's pretty much it. You have essentially 5 data sheets to build into your army, and 2 of those are locked to specific factions. Is that a limiting factor in this? Because we don't have a Librarian on bike or a Librarian with jump pack or anything like that.
It is, but we actually forgot one more unit, Inquisitors. You can take any agents of the Imperium Inquisitor and add them to a battle line unit, and that battle line unit is now an Adeptus Astartes Psyker unit, and does get it also. So none of the Inquisitors are so extremely good that they make a lot of sense in a battle line unit, but I did play with the idea a little bit of having Draxas, for example, in there, right? And put her in a unit of just regular intercessors. The shooting now is pretty good, and she isn't too expensive. Gives the unit a bit more punch in combat. Then you have the Power Fist plus her Power Fist, so you have 2 fists. So they also unlock it. But then to answer your question, yes, this detachment tells you what you're playing, which is Space Marine Infantry.
Yeah, correct. It's Space Marine Infantry, and you slap a Psyker on the side. All right. The first of the enhancements is Prescience for 25 points. These are all Adeptus Astartes Psyker model only. This first one does say it excludes Terminator models. Once per turn, when an enemy unit ends a normal advance or fallback move within 9 of the bearer, you can boot scoot D6 inches, as in you have a D6 reactive move, or flat 6 if the Divination discipline is active for your army. And we already pretty much mentioned Divination is probably the best one. I should have said this before, but Divination is the only one that is active pretty much all the time. Biomancy, +2 move, only in the movement phase. Pyromancy, +1 AP, only in the shooting phase and only within 12. Telekinesis is -1 strength from only ranged attacks, so only really helps, if you're being overwatched or in your opponent's shooting phase. And then telepathy is ignoring modifiers, and probably the worst one, because you can just use Oath to get around those hit modifiers anyway. So Divination is the one that is kind of active all the time, helps on Overwatch, helps in the shooting phase, helps in the fight phase. It's pretty much the catch-all. So because that links to this, does that make Prescience a little bit better?
It absolutely does. I love Prescience. I think it's one of the core enhancements in this detachment. I think there's a lot of play to it. I think people can get pretty creative with it. Is you can protect one of your most important units with this, right? So this detachment really wants you to play Sternguard and Hellblasters. Those are, I think, 2 of the best units in this detachment. And Prescience keeps those 2 units safe in a melee matchup, right? If you go into a lot of the now bigger threats, Horn, Blood Angels, they got to respect that one unit will always have a reactionary move of 6.
Correct.
Or what I've been doing, which I've been really liking, is I put this on a Phobos Librarian. So I put it on a Phobos Librarian and Infiltrators. So that way you have a unit, deny Deep Strike within 12, low knob. And now the only way you can actually engage them is if you get into that sweet bubble of 12 to outside of 9 inches, because if not, they move 6 inches away. And now what they do all of a sudden is, starting turn 1, you have a unit together, so I've been taking in this list basically a Phobos Lieutenant with combi weapon and a Phobos Librarian with infiltrators. So now you have 2 units that can take objectives, and if your opponent wants to take those objectives from you, they got to move on to the objective, and now you can just move 6 inches off, making your units go to relative safe places and be able to strike back, or they got to end in that sweet spot to actually shoot and kill them, but then they're not really taking the objective. And I've been loving that. That has been fantastic, about all on GW boards.
That sounds like such spicy jank. I love that so much. All right, next one, Celerity. 30 points. The bearer's unit is eligible to declare a charge in a turn in which it advanced. And if the Biomancy discipline is active for your army, it is eligible to declare a charge in which it fell back. So if the +2 move is active, they get fall back in charge. But the best part of this, of course, is advance in charge. But all the best units you described previously are not melee units. So is this a case to, maybe take a unit of, say, Blade Guard or something like that?
I think this is if you want to play Terminators. So if you have a sweet spot for Terminators, I think Celerity is incredible, gives Terminators advance in charge. But also, honestly, Sternguard. Sternguard, weirdly enough, is a melee unit against anything that doesn't have a 2-up armor save. If they are the Oath target, they get full rerolls to wound. With Oath, they can have full rerolls to hit. Now they throw 4 attacks. 5 attacks apiece, 4 attacks, and the sergeant is 4 with a power fist. It's a huge amount of attacks. So I think this leans more into a Terminator unit, but Sternguard is your second best. If you end your list with 1970 points, I think you can throw this on one of your librarians. It's going to be attached to Sternguard. I wouldn't necessarily always take it, but it is a good enhancement to have if you want to build for it.
I mean, my first instinct as a Dark Angels player was 6 Inner Circle Companions and a Libby in an Impulsor. And then they just bug out and just absolutely yeet into somebody. And of course, the Libby will give them the 4-up invuln, which they really lack, and being joined to the unit, they'll have -1 to hit as well. So I reckon that's a pretty sick combo. Next up is Obscure Creation, 20 points. Enemy units cannot fire Overwatch to shoot at the bearer's unit. And if telepathy discipline is active for your army, that you have Lone Up 18. Of course, the telepathy is the ignore the hit mods, which is the wrong one. I wish it was telekinesis. If telekinesis was active, which is a -1 strength. So you could be -1 strength, no Overwatch, Lone Up 18, and just have 3 barriers to being dead. How do you rate this one, mate?
I completely agree with you. I think this one is neat. But it's not something I would ever really build for, because the times you will end up in telepathy are pretty rare. And talking about what we talked before with Prescience and having access to a Phobos Librarian and any kind of Phobos unit, you already have Lone Up 12. So this is, I feel like it's a good enhancement. It's not something I would probably take.
Nah, me either. All right. Fusillade is up next with 15 points. Psycho model only, of course. Range weapons equipped by models in the bearer's unit have anti-monster, anti-vehicle 5+. And the sustain hit 1 ability if Pyromancy is active for your army, which is, of course, the improved AP by 1. So you'll get +1 AP and sustained hits 1. And then +6 inch range to weapons if you're in telekinesis, which is the -1 strength to incoming attacks in the ranged. Is this any good? Because it looks really spicy to me on face value, but then I wonder which units you are taking that that aren't already going to be wounding. I mean, Hellblast is already wounding everything in the game on 5s or worse. I mean, it will matter if you're wounding on 5s and they've got -1 to wound or something. That's a very niche case. So where does this find a home? Because it is quite good, I think.
Boy, let me tell you. There's one unit, and this unit will abuse this. One unit only. You said it. Sternguard. Sternguard will pump out with this enhancement anywhere from 15 to 20 devastating wounds to any oathed target. And that's without activating the sustained one. If you activate sustained one, it's anywhere from 18 to 24 mortal wounds in the shooting phase. And if you play this with Ultramarines, where you can get 2 oath targets, you can split fire, shoot a unit, like half a unit at one target, kill it, oath gets activated for the second one, shoot it, and also kill it. It's pretty nasty.
Yeah. Now, the thing is, so the first thing I identify when I went through these enhancements is that there are 3 of them I legitimately want to take. And I'm already taking a little bit of a pseudo tax in this army because every unit that I want to be a legitimate unit kind of has to have a Libby. So that means I'm budgeting, 55 plus 15. I'm budgeting 70 points in my list to take all the enhancements apart from obfuscations and whatever it is. Is that a problem for the army as well?
A little bit. I think I only played so far with 2 of the enhancement, Prescience and Fusilade. I haven't played with Celerity just because I really think you either got to do ICC or Terminators, and I haven't played either of those units. I've been leaning more into a shooting-based army with a little bit of counterpunch, and in that case, you only take Prescience and Fusilade. And if the 25 points for Prescience are too tight, I would even cut Prescience and just go with Fusilade.
Yep. Totally fair. All right, mate. First of the stratagems, this is Sensory Assault. We already mentioned this one. It's a 1 CP in when command phase, not yours, not theirs, both. 1 psych unit from your army. Select 1 enemy unit that is within 18 of and visible to 1 psych model in your unit. Until the start of your next turn, that enemy unit is pinned. While the unit is pinned, subtract 2 from the unit's move and charge rolls, so not advance, made for it. In addition, if telepathy discipline is active for your army, they must take a battle shock immediately at -1. And the telepathy is, of course, the ignoring the hit mods, essentially. But this is a banger, and the timing is superb. How do you feel about it, dude?
I love it. This has been the thread I've been building the list around, because thinking that this is an army that is mostly infantry units, so you aren't the fastest, but this combines really well with impulsors. Impulsors let you disembark a unit after the impulsor itself had advanced. So what you can do is quite often you can yeet an impulsor across the table, have a librarian disembark from it, and then in your opponent's turn, in his command phase, you can pick a unit within 18 that was trying to stage in a ruin or something, and just say -2 to move, -2 to advance. And now a unit that had a threat range of, let's say, movement 6 or movement 8, 10, right, is reduced by 2, and then the charge roll is reduced by 2. It's massive.
It doesn't -2 advance rolls. So it's -2.
It's not -2 advance, correct? Just movement and charge. That's what I meant. Sorry.
What I also love about it is if you have, so this is the thing I love the most, actually, because it's actually doubling down. You remember your Phobos Infiltrator unit? You can have it out front, zoning off. It's lone up 12. It is 12-inch deny. A lot of people will try and rapid ingress a unit outside 12 and then move in 6 and then shoot or charge you. And then so they rapid ingress, and then in their command phase, you -2 move and charge. And so that unit, moves 4 inches. And even if you don't bug out and do the reactive move, they've got an 8-inch charge +2. They've got a 10-inch charge, and so it just turns off another way for you to deal with that unit.
Yep, exactly. It's been fantastic. The battle shock part is neat if it ever comes, but it's really just it's and now with all late game, right? It's another one of those late game tools. Once the game gets messy, you are out on objectives, you're trying to hold and or deny primary, and you're getting down to your last 4, 5, 6 units per player. To then be able to dictate the game to say that unit on that objective can take part of the game because they won't be able to reach any of the other objectives this turn is massive, right? And then you focus down on 2 objectives.
All right, next up is Armor Contempt. We all know exactly what that is, so moving on. We have Fiery Shield, 1 CP. It's in the fight phase, just after an enemy unit selected its targets. 1 Adeptus Astartes infantry or mounted unit from your army that is within 18 of 1 or more friendly Adeptus Astartes Psycho models and was selected as the target of the attacks. To the end of the phase, each time an attack targets your unit, so -1 from the hit roll. If Pyromancy discipline is active for your army, they have Hazardous as well. And of course, Pyromancy is the improved AP by 1 within 12 range attack. So it doesn't really line up as a thing you would want to be in Pyromancy for. But the fact is, you're in Pyromancy for the extra AP. You shot him, you didn't quite kill him. They want to charge in, tag you, tie you up, and you can make yourself -1 to hit. But this doesn't seem that good in this army, right?
It's not the best strat. It's not why you play this army, but I have used the strat in almost every game I played in the end.
Nice. Excellent.
At -1 to hit, if you make the math, is a bigger boost now sometimes than Oath is in combat. Because a unit that will usually hit you on 2s, going on 3s, right now, instead of missing 1 out of 6, misses 1 out of 3. That doubles the amount of misses almost they will have.
And did you mean Armor Contempt?
Armor Contempt. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, now you go. You're good.
Yep. And then if you play into an army that is just all combat, right? Like I had a game into the new World Eaters Detachment, where my opponent chose his 3 vessels, and I couldn't see anything that turned, so I was like, well, let me just activate it. So anything that charges me, any of your Exalted, you just take the risk of having -1 to hit, and then maybe you lose a guy on top, right? So it's a 1 CP to kill maybe an Exalted, and you might lose 2 or 3 Marines less when they charge you. It actually was pretty clutch. It's situational, but I actually think it's not bad. But all because it's not only used on a unit that has a Librarian, you can cast it from a Librarian onto any other unit within 18.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we have Iron Arm, which is in the fight phase. So not yours or theirs, just both. 1 infantry unit from your army that has been 18 of 1 or more Psycho units from your army. It doesn't have to be visible, which is nice as well. To the end of the phase, add 1 to the strength characteristic of melee weapons equipped by models in your unit, or add 2 if Biomancy is up and going. And Biomancy is the +2 move one if you forgot. This sounds like pretty good. This sounds like 1 CP +1 to wound is how this is going to work out, because you're never going to do it unless it isn't. But this sounds pretty good, mate.
It is, exactly. That's how I've been playing it. If it is that 1 point that you need it is great. And same story, Biomancy, if you really need that +2 and you want the +2 movement with it, it is decent. And it also, like, Librarians aren't the worst in combat, and them going from strength 6 to 7 has been a bigger breaking point. So again, it's situational, but it is, when it is good, it is good.
Exactly right. You pointed out, things like Exalted 8-bound, Possessed. There's plenty of demons running around. There's a lot of things that hit the toughness that are sitting around toughness 6 at the moment. If they want to be, people want to take that profile, they will find there's a lot of toughness 6 3 wound things they can take in their lists. So I like this a lot. I think it's quite good. Next up is Assail, and this is a spicy grenade. 1 CP, it's in your shooting phase. 1 Adeptus Psycho unit from your army that is eligible to shoot. Select 1 enemy unit within 18 of and visible to that Psycho, excluding units with lone up, of course, because that's the new caveat. And roll 6d6 +1 if telekinesis discipline is active for your army. Each 4+, they suffer a mortal wound. So on average, 6 dice, 3 mortal wounds. If telekinesis, which is the -1 strength to incoming range attacks, is active, you'll get it on 3+ and average 1 more mortal. But 1 CP for an 18-inch grenade sounds pretty dang good.
It is. I've been using that plus because you can use it plus grenade. If you have 2 CP, correct, you do grenade and then you do Assail, and you can do an average 6 mortal wounds on top of all the devastating damage your army will pack because you have a lot of devastating attack. It adds up quite quickly.
And the range is excellent as well. 18 inches, like 18 versus the 8 inches or whatever it is that grenades have. This is much more usable than grenades. So much more often as well. And of course, you have the little ability to spike up if you really are desperate to kill that Magnus or something.
Exactly. No, it has in every game. This is one of the strats that you just bank a CP for almost every turn, right? What I've been using is I was banking in the turns it matters 1 CP for Sensory Assault, and then a second one for Assail and or Grenade when I had to. And you can early game maybe discard a card or 2, or if you play Dark Angels or Ultramarines, you just always get 2 CP for bringing Kalgar or
Azrael.
What's our dog? Azrael.
Yeah.
And it's a great strat. I mean, 3 mortal wounds on a unit that you can pick 18 inches. It's fantastic.
All right, last one CP, Prescient Precision. It's in your shooting phase. 1 Adeptus Studies Psycho unit from your army that hasn't been selected to shoot. And to the end of the phase, each time model unit makes an attack, that attack has lethal hits. And in addition, it'll have Ignores Cover if Divination is active for your army. And we know Divination is one of the best ones because it's real ones to hit, ones to wound. So you'll get more access to lethal hits. Now, I have an issue with the naming of this. It's called Prescient Precision, not Prescient Lethal Hits. Where's my precision keyword instead? Why did they change the name? Anyway, this is another really good strat because, of course, what I love this on is Hellblasters. Giving Hellblasters AP3 Ignores Cover and Lethals as well, with real ones to hit, ones to wound because you'll be in Divination, seems like a banger.
It is. You called out one of the top units to use it on as Hellblasters, and I've been using it on the aforementioned Desolation Marines. Having Desolation Marines that real ones to hit, ones to wound, lethal hits, and ignore cover takes that unit up quite a bit.
Yeah.
And it just gives you a unit that can interact starting turn 1 with your opponent, and they will interact for 5 turns with your opponent. Even if they bring indirect, you just put them in an impulsor, and then you do not attach a librarian to them. And then, because usually the armies that have indirect is guard, and then you can still kill guardsmen from out of the impulsor. You can still shoot your indirect weapons from out of the impulsor. And that's it. And then you don't need the extra buffs. But if you go into any other army, having lethal hits, ignore cover on that unit, roll once to hit, once to wound, makes that unit all of a sudden pretty dang good. And then towards the end of the game, they can just come out and shoot long range 4 missiles plus the indirect weapon from the sergeant, which are strength 10, AP 2, D6 plus 1 damage. So they also have some big guns with it. So I've been loving this strat. This strat plus the plus 1 to wound on an oath target, plus rerolling once to hit and to wound, I think makes Desolation Marines in the Librarius Conclave a super solid unit. Just because your opponent must respect it, right? It's a unit that will pick off little chaff units. It will pick up cultists. It will pick up guardsmen. It will pick up all the little trash units right now that are scoring and holding objectives pretty fast. And then late game, they can even chip a couple wounds of a tank if need to be.
Yeah, 100%. I love it. I think it's an extremely good stratagem, and I think it's. I think this is a very good detachment. I think if you're willing to go all in on it, I think this detachment will reward you quite heavily. So we come to our rating system, because that is the end of the review portion. So out of 10, mate, how happy are you with this detachment?
A solid 7.58. Honestly, I think this is a great detachment. If you want to play it, you will be happy playing it. I think it does really good in Dark Angels, as you mentioned before. It does really good in Ultramarines. But also, if you just want to play vanilla Space Marines and you like your Librarians, solid detachment.
Yeah, totally agree. I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. It would be like a 10 out of 10 if there was access to a jump rack librarian. If there was a jump rack librarian, my God, this thing would be like possibly S tier, because you could attach it to like Inceptors. and then things would get real silly, mate. But we're probably happy that it is not. Even a Libby on bike with some Outriders now would be really spicy. But because it's not, I'll give it an 8 out of 10. I think this is a perfect Grotmas detachment. It lines up really well with many of the others, as in it's not stronger than the existing detachments for Space Marines, but it's on par, and it is a quantifiable different way to play Space Marines than anything else, and rewards you for going all in on it, which some others don't reward you anywhere near enough, I believe. As for how strong this is, mate, if you were the best Libby Conclave list you can possibly make, mate, where do you think it ranks in the tier list from D tier up to S tier?
I think it's a solid top of B, bottom of A. I think with the change that Oath had also gotten, if you play well, this detachment can reward you in a lot of ways. Having access to the enhancement for prescience, that gives you reactive move. Having access to slowing your opponent down in the movement and chargement phase by using it in the command phase, and just giving you the extra damage output that you need. Like the aforementioned Stormguard unit with Fusillade, putting out mortal wounds. Like this detachment, with the right combination of unit, can pick one opponent's unit to be, you are not part of the game next round. One unit is just dead, and then has enough chaff units to interact with your opponent's chaff.
Yeah, it strikes a beautiful balance of I can control and mitigate what your opponent does, and also buff my units that, Sternguard aren't an S tier unit, but in here they are an absolute S tier unit, because of what this can give them. So it takes units that otherwise would be very takeable but not the best, and moves them straight up to the top. I think this is an A tier detachment. I think the best in the game with these best armies will be able to get very good results and could probably win just about anything if played correctly. There are a couple of issues, because there's a couple of anti-psycho lists that are just like inherently in the game. Things like T-Suns, you can just decide to be very good against you. But even then, I think Space Marines do really well against T-Suns at the moment. And the Desolation Marines in this matchup really pop off, because they have just like no cultists going into turn 2, which is very powerful.
Exactly. And actually, into T-Suns, I think this is a fantastic army into T-Suns, because Librarians give you 4 being vulnerable save and 4 Funeral Pen against psychic attacks.
Correct. You're absolutely right, mate. So I might just be wrong on that one, and it could be an absolute banger. But anyway, let us move on to our part 2. So hopefully you guys will come and join us and talk about some of the games that Sascha has played and what we think a really good list for this detachment looks like. Hope you guys have all enjoyed your LVO experience as well. Sascha, hopefully you've done very well at LVO yourself. And take care, guys. Look after each other. Sorry, Sascha, I didn't give you a chance to plug anything, mate. Is there anything you would like to plug?
Nothing too much right now. Enjoy the game. 40k is in a fantastic spot currently. I think pick a detachment, pick an army you have fun with. I think there's lots of way to play 40k right now and have fun with it. It's probably one of the best spots that it ever has been.
It really is. It's in such a good spot right now. But anyway, take care, look after each other, guys, and stay tuned for some Tony V goodness coming up right next. G'day, my lovelies, and welcome to your second and very special, very spicy segment for today's episode. I'm joined by a gentleman who's taken an unfortunate, unexpected, unplanned hiatus from the show after being one of the absolute stalwarts, mostly because he's just like literally one of the only other people in 40k who I think is busier than I am. His name is Anthony Vanella, or Tony V, as we call him on Art of War Down Under. Hello, brother.
Hello, sir. How's it going?
Really good. Really, really, really good. And you are joining us to help review the creations of Fabulous Bile, or, Fabulous Bile.
Yes, sir. My beloved children are back. They are very powerful. It is it's everything I want, right? It's CSM and Drukhari smashed together. I get my flesh monsters, but with my CSM data sheets. Big fan.
It's like your OG identity. As a player. It is, really is. It feels like a bit of a homecoming to have you on to review this as well. So I'm very happy with that.
Yes, sir.
Now, my man, you are involved in so many things to do with 40k. Would you like to plug any or all of them?
Oh yeah, I'm a busy bee. So you actually have the rest of my compatriots from StatCheck on here regularly. If you don't know what StatCheck is, it's a website. Slam StatCheck 40k into Google. You'll be able to find it. It's usually the first result. So I do a bunch of stuff with that. Help out with the website and contribute to our podcast sphere and things of that nature. I am a member of Team Art of War. Goes without saying. I've been there for a long time now, and I'm a proud member of Team USA, where I'm the vice captain. Hopefully, a returning starter this year. We will see how that goes.
Fantastic, man. I hope you do as well. It's going to be an exciting year.
Yes, sir.
All right, jumping into Creations of Bile. Hot takes, my man. How do you feel about this detachment? Because it is spicy.
So I am biased as sin, Adam, as you know. A detachment that enables a melee pressure army that doesn't need to rely on guns because it is now fast enough to connect is my bread, butter, appetizer, main course, the whole thing for me, right? So I love this detachment. I think if you're looking to play, well-rounded 5 rounds of Warhammer as Nottingham intended, this is perhaps not the home for you. Check out Renegade Raiders. Check out Veterans of the Long War. There's lots of options to do that. This is about, big pressure with your big fleshy boys that smash the opposition apart in 2 to 3 battle rounds.
Yeah. I just love the idea of you cracking this one open and just being like, I'm not made of stone. I have to build my entire identity around this for the next 3 months.
Yeah. That was basically what happened. I read exactly the detachment rule and was like, all right, I get a break from World Eaters. Finally, yes. I can play something else. Hell yeah.
Well, that has been one of the complaints leveled at this, is that it's just like, why would I play this when the just World Eaters is kind of just that already, but with an Angron?
Oh, that's hilarious. See, I feel the exact opposite way. I'm like, why would I ever play World Eaters when I can play this? Exactly. I don't have to run Angron.
Well, but people are like, oh, well, I already have a World Eaters army, so why would I go and get this? Because it's kind of the same thing.
Oh, that's crazy. They do such different things too.
Yeah, I mean, I get the idea of the allure over Primarch, but I'm like, oh, whatever, horses for courses. If you already have a melee pressure army and you don't want to buy another melee pressure army because you're not Tony V and not a maniac who must only play my whole identity, baby.
I'll have you know, I built my name on combined arms, Adam. Drukhari and Emperor's Children, where this house was built.
Those foundations are strong. Since that's a house of pain.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway, the detachment rule is experimental augmentations at the start of the battle. So select which augmentations are active for your heretic studies, infantry models, not damned models from your army. until the end of the battle. To do so, either select one from the following list or roll 2d6. If Fabius Bile is your warlord, when rolling your 2d6, you can re-roll one or both of the dice. Duplicate augmentations have no additional effects. I really hate that last bit.
I mean, it would be insane if they stacked, but I understand.
I just think that you should never be able to have a double.
It should just
if you don't want to let them stack. If you don't let them stack, just make sure you always have 2 results if you're going to roll 2 dice. Yep. So there's not just some real bad. Yeah, anyway. If you roll a 1, or you pick this one, add 1 to the attacks. Next one is +2 move. Next one is improved weapon skill by 1. Next one is improved toughness by 1. Next one is improved strength by 1. And the last one is improved ballistic skill by 1. By one of these things is not like the others, and 6s are bad. It's essentially the way I saw this. Like, I'm happy and can live with everything except a 6. And that feels wrong. I should want the 6.
Yeah, I feel like they should switch the 6 and the 1, honestly, but whatever, it's fine. So the main thing with this detachment is that basically any 2 of these are good, right? Any of 1 through 5 twice is nuts. There are lots of armies that CSM don't need help killing, right? At which point picking +2 move is really good, right? Against stuff like, your T3, as I affectionately refer to them, rat armies, right? The Sisters, the GSC, the Eldar, the Dark Eldar, stuff like that. Where you don't need more gas, you just need the ability to, hold the bad guys so you can hit them. There is an outside thing that the ballistic skill does that is actually pretty cool from like a design level perspective that isn't just like a pure, top 10% elo grind set mindset, which is the ballistic skill encourages you to take things that you would otherwise not normally see outside of like vets, as an example, like a blitz, or you can make an outside argument for havocs and stuff like that. It's not a great argument, but it's better, right? So a blitz, as an example, love a lot of these. And they also give you insurance where if you roll a 6, you're not irate. Now, I tested this for a while. I eventually took the blitz out of my list, and I'm just sad when I roll a 6. But that's just, you have enough, try agains to where hopefully that doesn't happen to you.
I also love this way of building around the core special character as well. Where cool. If Fabius Bile is in your army, you get a buff. But you unlike Emperor's Children, you don't have to take Fabius Bile to use the detachment. I think that's the perfect balance between.
Yeah, I think it's really good. They did a really good job with this detachment from like a flavor perspective, basically top to bottom.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is an exceptional detachment. All right, first of the enhancements. Surgical precision for 10 points. Heretic Astartes model bears melee weapons at precision. 10 points. Sick. Maybe. Cool.
Yep. Cool. Nice. Thumbs up. Did it. Yep. Precision.
Next one, 15 points, +1 to wounds of the Chaos Lord, who this must be taken by, and 5 up, feel no pain. Probably not enough to keep him alive, but not bad for 15 points.
So very funny on one model in specific. This is very good on the Chaos Lord in Terminator armor, who has a data sheet ability that halves damage taken, and this takes him to 7 wounds. So he becomes 2 up, 4 up, 5 up with 7 wounds and half damage. He is expensive as sin at that point. I think he's like 110 points. But he is like earnestly annoying to get rid of, right?
I like that. Actually, I quite like that. 7 is like the right number of wounds for half damage to feel really good.
Yeah, it's just a giant pain, right? You put him on an objective, it's like, oh god, he like free strats and stuff too. He's just a pain, right? He's not, God's gift. He's not going to change the entire game for you, but he is very annoying.
Yeah, you just stand there and like 3 DDAs just bounce. You're like,
that might just do nothing, right? Yeah.
Yep. Next one, Helm of All Seeing for 25 points. Heretic Astartes infantry model that isn't damned. Enemy units cannot be set up from reserve within 12.
So this used to be a lot more valuable, like checks notes a month ago.
Yes.
But now is not broadly worth the price that it costs. So the big issue with like CSM, and this is a very common thread in World Leaders as well, is that if you're going to print an enhancement for these armies that are like trying to go wider on their like unit to unit stuff, right? Melee armies tend to live and die by their units more so than their like characters carrying you. Particularly the generic characters in these given armies don't necessarily do a ton of work unless you get an enhancement like the next one, which we'll talk about in a second. It's hard to like an enhancement like this isn't just the 25 points for the enhancement, right? An enhancement like this is the 25 points for the enhancement plus a character you wouldn't normally take. So it very rapidly is not very valuable.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. I mean, if you're playing Fabius Bile right now and you have just so many scions in your meta.
If you've ended up with like a Master of Executions in your list or something weird, right? Totally, just like, you can plug this onto like that, or you can put this on like a thing that's going to be in your backfield, right? You could put this on like whatever the cheapest character currently is. I think it's a Master of Possessions. Don't quote me on that. And just like stick him in your backfield, right? He hangs out with your cultists and keeps it safe back there, right?
All right, last one, Prime Test Subject. 35 points, easily the most expensive of the bunch. Infantry model, Heretic size infantry model only that isn't damned. +1 damage to the characteristic of the melee weapons. Each time the bearer makes a melee attack, you can re-roll their hit roll.
It is insane.
A banger.
I am on this detachment almost, like, not entirely, but at least partially because of this enhancement. So this takes a Chaos Lord from being damage 2 all the time to 3 all the time, and then up to
4 on the go 10.
Yeah, when he's in go mode. It also gives reroll hits, which is also something that CSM doesn't have a ton of outside of like Veterans of the Long War or like maybe Pact-Bound if you go that route. Though Pact-Bound is a bad detachment because when you fail pacts, it's already bad. You don't need to get double punished. But yeah, so having access to reroll hits on something like this is massive. As we'll see later, there's a way to reroll wounds. And that combination really enables him to join something like Chosen instead of something like Legionnaires, which gives you a whole bunch of other really good rules.
Correct. And of course, one of the downsides of the Chaos Lord is that Demon Hammers hit on 3s. And you can have infinity attacks, but then your bastard opponent uses a -1 to hit in combat stratagem, and you have infinity cut in half for your attacks.
Yeah, exactly.
And sometimes they just that's what I'm happy you talked about the difference between them with Legionaries and Chaos Lords. I know people who literally only took them with Legionaries because of the fact people would do that to them. They would like lightning fast reaction equivalents in combat and be like new to the Chaos Lord.
With the Legionaries, right? Like, it helps.
Yeah, correct. All right, my dude. In order of priority, which enhancements do you purchase in this army?
I purchased Prime Test Subject when I put this detachment into my list. A Lord with Prime Test Subject goes in right after the first unit of cultists, because that's how you build a CSM list. You start with cultists. But yeah, the Prime Test Subject is like insane, auto include, super easy to take, like enables a bunch of stuff. It's really good. From there, the next one I would probably look at is the Living Carapace and that combo we talked about earlier. Though I'm probably not going to go out of my way to spend 110 points on that guy. It's probably the next most likely one to pick up. And then from there, I would go Surgical Precision, because sometimes you end up with 10 points left over in a 10th edition list. And then the Helm of All-Seeing is just like really hard to justify again, because you need like a character plus the enhancement, and it's expensive.
The only time I would Helm of All-Seeing just based on my meta. If it would just be like, I have to analyze my meta, and if my meta tells me that I absolutely have to have this to hold my backfield,
right?
Cool. Okay, I guess we're taking it.
I mean, at that point, I would just take like more rhinos or something, right? Just put dudes in boxes able to take your backfield. At that point, it'd be better than like overspending on this to keep it.
Yep, that makes sense. All right, first of the enhancements. I call this one the mean mugging. This is monstrous visages for 1 CP. It is so your opponent's shooting phase, or the fight phase, just on enemy unit has selected its targets. 1 Heretic Status infantry unit from your army that was selected. They are -1 to hit. I love that they mean mug the opponent, and then they're -1 to hit. They're just like, rawr.
The lore is that they're literally really ugly. Looking at them is like, gross.
I don't like that.
But yeah, it's just a decent strat. Like, it doesn't come up a ton, but your other stratagems are either expensive or situational, so those also don't necessarily come up a ton. So having access to something that's just like, hey, I'm -1 to hit. I'm -1 to hit through the phase. If you take like, you'll see later when we talk about like, kind of the list that I played. These big units that are already like awkward profiles to kill, being like, 3 wounds across a lot of them. Just to add it, like sliding a -1 to hit mod over top of all of that makes them even more annoying. So yeah, it's good. Genuinely good.
I totally agree. It's time for us to tit for tat, mate. What's the next stratagem?
All right, the next one is the Masters Are Watching, which is in the fight phase when an enemy unit has selected its targets. One of your units that is selected as those targets gets to get a 4-up fight on death. Technically you can use this on damned units. If you do so, you subtract 1 from the result, so it'd be on 5-up fight on death for damned units. Just don't do that, because you're not taking a cursed cultist here, and because you're not taking a cursed cultist, you're not using this on regular cultists. So 4-up fight on death, same kind of deal as the last stratagem, where it's not an always use, it is a sometimes use. Sometimes going into a fight phase you have 3 CP and you're going to interrupt anyway, and the first activation into you is into one of your decent melee units, and you're just like fight on deathing for value.
Yep, agreed. I like it. I like that they have this, even though it's not one of the better fight on deaths. Like it's not a fight on death with a rider to get it to a 3 on the premium units. It's a rider the other way to get it lower on the crappy units.
I wish they had done it that way, but
Oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah. This next one might be the best one of the bunch. Specimens for the spider for 2 CP. It's in the fight phase. 1 heritage dice infantry unit from your army that has not been selected to fight. And to the end of the phase, each dime model in your unit makes a melee attack that targets a character unit, a la the best units in the game. You can reroll the wound roll. After a unit has a fort, if 1 or more enemy character models were destroyed as a result of those attacks, select 1 enemy unit within 6 of your unit. They must take a battle shock test. If the enemy warlord was destroyed as a result of these attacks, every enemy unit within 6 inches must take a battle shock test. It's 2 CP. It's XE, but rerolls to wound is a good premium ability.
It's also worth noting that a Chaos Lord can reduce this by 1, right? So knocking this back to 1 is really nasty. This is genuinely an insane stratagem. It's really good a lot of the time. I mean, I would, obviously the Greed Lord in me is like, I would prefer that it was 1 CP and didn't do anything battle shock wise, but I'll accept that this is the version that we got, and that's fine. So it is really good most of the time. I haven't had the battle shocks come up yet, but in theory you could like start a fight phase with this, right? Blast a character to death, point at a different unit and turn off its ability to interrupt. And that is pretty cool. Or, its ability to use defensive strats or so on and so forth. But yeah, it's a, genuinely good stratagem, right?
Yeah, agreed. What's the next one?
The next up is Delayed Mutations. This has a very funny interaction with the stratagem after, but we'll just lead with this one for now. So this is in the command phase. This is you pick an infantry unit of yours that is not damned. It suffers D3 mortal wounds, and then you pick an extra augmentation until your next command phase, you get that augmentation. So you can do some pretty funny jank with this, but in general, just adding an augmentation to a unit is very good.
2 CP annoys me. I feel like this could easily be a 1 CP strap because you are hurting yourself. Like it's not like it's 2 CP and just get it. There is also you're paying a tax for it. But
I could see 2 CP being more reasonable if it was like the rest of the game or something. Like just like 2 CP take damage is like okay, I guess.
But wait. Let's theoretically, you've got a 1 wound possessed at the back of your unit, and you're just like, I just wish I could put this 1 wound possessed. I wish I could turn it from it. I wish I could change it to a 3 wound possessed at the front of my unit.
The next movement, which is
the next stratagem. The next stratagem is Diabolic Regeneration for 1 CP. It's in your command phase. 1 Heritage Dice infantry unit, 1 destroyed model, excluding character models, is returned to your unit. If your unit is battle line, D3 models are added instead. So yeah, you can 2 CP, get the augmentation that you need for that turn, kill the guy at the back of the squad, res him at the front, and go charge your opponent's entire army.
So where this has like particularly funny value is actually with specifically Bile's unit. So an oft maligned part of Bile is that he has like the little gimp with him, right? And that little guy takes up space in the rhino. And normally that is really annoying. However, in this particular instance, it doesn't matter because he's been stapled to 10 chosen a lot lately, and that fills the whole rhino anyway. So what that guy lets you do though is that guy only has 1 wound. So you can pick that dude off while buffing your unit, which is already being buffed by Bile and is now being buffed by the army rule and is now being buffed by an additional part of the army rule, and teleport him to the front of the unit and then extend your, movement by minimum, like it's like 3 or 4 with that guy's little base. And then if you take +2 move because you didn't already have it, it adds like 6 inches to where that unit can go on a unit that innately advances and charges.
Yes, I have a theological question. We're going to go on a little tangent. Yeah. Okay. So you for 1 CP, you can resurrect an obliterator.
Yep.
Correct. Which is probably it's literally the highest value single dump value points return you can get for this CP, correct?
Yep, that's true.
Let's say one obliterator has died, and I resurrect 1 obliterator. And then another obliterator dies, which is the other obliterator from the starting squad, and you regenerate another obliterator. Ship of Theseus style. Is that a new unit of obliterators?
Can it use its indirect again? I don't know.
Of course you can. Of course,
I would love to believe the answer is yes, but it's almost certainly no. I feel like if you asked that at WTC, Jay would put you through a table.
Yeah, he would. He would powerbomb. He would powerbomb me. You know the ship of Theseus, yeah?
Yes, absolutely. How many parts can you replace before it's no longer the same ship?
Before it's no longer the same thing. I would say that to Jay, how many are Blitz throw replace before they get their indirect? What's per game back, Jay?
Yeah, come on, Jay. What's the number? Yeah.
Yeah, he 100% choke slam.
So I thought this was going to be really dope on a Blitz when I put them in the list, and then I kept losing both a Blitz or no Blitz, and I was like, okay, never mind.
All right, my dude, what is the last one?
The last one is the best one, because it's the thing that enables the entire detachment. It is auto-stimulants. Start of the charge phase. Pick an Heretic Astartes unit from your army. You can charge even if you advanced.
Exactly everything this army needed.
Just boom, got there on the 1 yard line. Just the last strat sends it over.
This army would not function without this strat. I'm of that opinion. Even though I think Specimen of the Spider is the one that I think makes the units you take
do more
good.
Damage. Yeah,
good. The auto stimulants. If this unit, if this army couldn't advance and charge, it couldn't be the pressure army that it needs to be.
Yes, correct. You would be a lot slower, and that would leave you in this awkward space of like wanting to just hard pick +2 move a lot of the time. Whereas now you just don't need to do that.
And then, you're still plottable, right? Even though you are cool, you are arguably very fast. You're still just like a pre-measure away from being.
Yeah. I mean, you take a lot of Chosen, right? And Chosen are advance and charge, fall back and charge, and shoot innately. But like you would, a lot of the rest of it would be a lot more knowable, right?
Well, that would be the whole list, right? You could only.
Yeah, at that point, you take a lot of Chosen.
Min-max the Chosen, baby. No other units would crush the sides.
Realistically, what you would do is just play Renegade Raiders because they have the most broken strat in the game, but that's a separate problem.
Do you reckon they're still the most broken? You reckon it's still the most broken in the game?
I think that strat is still just like rank 1 fucked up. First time someone like desperates a Vindicator through your stuff to double move in your turn is like, oh, okay, what?
Yeah. So I have it as 1 rung below Mr. Demos. I have Mr. Demos as the current ranked number 1 strat in the game for what it does.
I think if Mists was that broken, it would be the best GK detachment, and it isn't.
Oh, you think the Grotmas detachment's better now?
I think it blows the doors off the other one. I don't think it's close.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. I agree. It's the better way to play him. But yeah, Mr. Demos for just like the words on the stratagem, I'm like, yes, sick. It's like premium. It's just premium. It's just 1 CP. Do something absolutely fantastic. But I can see the case point. Maybe that's our first question over on part 2, because that is the end of the review of the detachment.
We did it.
All right, my dude. Out of 10, ranking this detachment for how much joy you think it has brought you and will bring to Chaos Space Marine players the world over, what do you give it? For
me, 10. I love this. It's very difficult to get me off World Leaders these days. I will be playing this for the foreseeable future. So for me, 10. For the wider community, and people that want to play vaguely more reasonable games of 40k that involve slightly less, slightly more trading and like interaction over the course of a game, probably like a 6 or a 7. I think this is probably in the top 3 for CSM detachments, but I think there's a real argument that Renegade Raiders is just like flatly better, and then I think there's a decent argument that Vets is just as good if you're not as comfortable playing the full pressure all in style.
Yeah, I have this as the second best detachment behind Renegade Raiders. I just feel like Renegade Raiders is more well-rounded for
objectively that's true. Yeah. Particularly for single Renegade Raiders is a again, if you don't have like thousands of man hours playing melee pressure, Renegade Raiders is the better singles list.
Yeah, totally agree. I have it as the equal second best. Debatably, with a couple of other generic CSM ones.
Yeah, Vets is damn good, dude.
Sorry?
I said
Vets exactly right. Vets is. I think Vets is a medical. Whether Vets is even better than Renegade Raiders sometimes.
Right. It depends.
But I agree with you. I think this is about a 7 out of 10. I think it's absolutely good. Could even be an 8 out of 10 because I love the fact that this has a lot of flavor and is like wrapped up in the nice little vial.
Dude, they knocked the lore of this out of like the flavor, the way it plays.
Yeah, correct.
Like when you're, it almost feels like a night. Personally, I think 10th has done a really poor job with like that side of stuff. But I think that this almost feels like a 9th detachment in that way, where it's like, oh, it's got all the stuff. I feel like I'm doing the thing. Nice. And I feel like because that's so uncommon now, this really is like a standout for that.
I have a very large car reversing very close by. Can you hear that?
A little bit, yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Back up faster, you goon. Why are you just sitting in your driveway in reverse?
Yeah, sometime today, boss.
Classic. Yeah, I totally agree. I think this is like one of the best like links the lore and the rules together detachments we've seen this edition.
Yep.
How strong do you put it? So an army wielded, to the best of its ability, on a tier list from D tier up to S tier. Where would you put a list of Creations of Bile?
I think it's an A. I think if you're saying at its like peak, like if it's wielded like fully properly against the wider meta.
Yeah, how good can it do? Yeah.
I think A. I think it definitely goes. I think it's easy money in A. I think it has like an outside argument at S. My problem with that is that a lot of the other stuff in S kick it square in the junk.
Correct.
So that can cause a bunch of problems. I don't think it quite goes in S, but I think it definitely, it floats.
Yeah, I think it can't go in S because its predators are big and taking in great numbers. Taking in great numbers. So yeah, that's my opinion as well. I think this is one of the best Grotmas detachments, and I think it ranks very highly because of that.
I agree. I think it does a lot of what CSM has done for a lot of the edition, honestly, where from almost the entire edition, CSM has not been the best army in the game outside of like very small windows, but it's like right there, and sometimes it gives the best army in the game like real fits. So
agreed.
Yeah.
So I guess the only criticism I'd have of this detachment is that it doesn't give CSM something that they don't already do.
Oh, I disagree with that. So this gives you a way to play CSM without relying on the gun tanks in CSM, right? So like,
that's fair. Yeah, that's
Renegade
fair.
Raiders and stuff like that, and even like Vets and like pretty much all the other detachments, right, want you to take some amount of Predator, Vindicator, Forge Fiend, right? This detachment is very directly based on its rules telling you not to do that. And when we get to the list writing component in a minute, you will see that I don't, and replace it with something way more interesting.
Yeah, I suppose I was thinking about unreleased Renegade Raiders that were just like Unga and or Bunga Warp Talons, which felt very similar to a lot of what this is doing. Yeah. But I guess this is at least interactive. But that was just like I am fast and I hit and I leave. Yeah, and I boot. Anyway, we are all done. We're going to go over and to record part 2, where we will be talking about the fact that this gentleman we're talking to right now has won a GT with this detachment, literally like 2 or 3 days after it came out. You maniac!
Yes, sir.
And we're going to chit-chat about that and where he thinks they are right now. Also about some of those Predator matchups we described and what Bile can do to get some back in its direction. But my man, anything else you'd like to plug before we check out?
Nothing right now. Check out Stat Check. Check out any of the Team USA stuff. Check out Art of War. Do it.
Do it. G'day everyone and welcome to the final segment of this week's show. I am joined by a very lovely man, a one of a kind, the Scarred one himself from Scarredcast, Skari.
Hello. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to talking some Warhammer today.
Yeah, we do apologise if the audio is a little bit rough on Skari's end. He's had a bit of a change of circumstance and has to record on his phone, so we're going to be doing the best I can to polish that up. But it is what it is, and I got to get this done before I get off to LVO, so this is the only slot we got left. But we are here to review the Reaper's Wager, my dude. How do you and what are your hot takes on this attachment?
Love the dynamic of the detachment. Can't wait to see how the Eldar book influences it, if that makes sense.
Yep. Oh, so you're hoping for buffs to the Harlequin portion in the Eldar book to make them relevant?
Yeah, yes, we'll get to it over the podcast, but I have played, I want to say 20 or 30 games with it so far.
Damn.
And it's got great stratagems, which we'll talk about. It's got a great dynamic. It wants to do something that's really cool. I've seen people do great with it, which is awesome. Personally, I've had a hard time developing a list that competes at the caliber, like a WTC caliber that I'm kind of used to playing. But in terms of like fun value and like, did it kind of vibes well? It's there. Like I love the vibe of the detachment, and I love that you get to switch the units around and have great strats and good enhancements and things. It just I've played it and it just feels like it just doesn't have quite enough of what I need sometimes.
Yeah. Well, the issue, I think you've hit the nail on the head. The issue isn't that the rules are bad. The rules are quite good. You're just using and wielding and trying to make the most out of some quite mediocre data sheets. And I think those data sheets just got a little bit of juice. This thing could be a contender. Is my take.
Yeah, there's the fact that there is an argument for don't even worry about bringing Harlequins and just bring Dark Eldar with these stratagems. That alone, it tells you, okay, so that at that point you're playing real space raid without getting the extra pain tokens.
Spot on.
If that makes sense, just to use the different stratagems and enhancements.
Mm-hmm. All right. Seeing as Skari is remote, I will be doing the reading and he will be doing the analysis. Colors competition.
Right here. I'm just saying.
You're a mad lad.
I've got it right on my. I got it right here. What do you? I come prepared to these things.
Look at you. Look at you. I wish. If only the roses were as sweet as the rest of my guests are as sweet as you. Colors competition at the start of the battle. Drukhari units from your army are winning the wager. Each time a Drukhari unit from your army destroys an enemy unit, Drukhari units from your army are winning the wager. Each time a Harlequin unit from your army destroys an enemy unit, Harlequin units from your army are winning the wager. While a Drukhari unit from your army are winning the wager, Harlequin units from your army are losing the wager, and vice versa. Each time a Drukhari or Harlequin's model from your army makes an attack, if that model's unit is losing the wager, reroll once to hit and once to wound. In addition, you can choose up to 1,000 points of Harlequins in your Drukhari army, but no Harlequin can be your warlord. Now, this is what you were talking about the dynamics of the swoopy swapping of the units. So essentially, you want to stagger them. So you want to kill something with a Drukhari Harlequins unit and then switch over to a Drukhari the opposite unit to get another kill to pass it back. You're almost passing a token internally within your army.
Yeah, it's like an interesting dynamic. It lends itself well to MSU shooting and then block combat, right? So it lends itself well to have like lots of little things shoot that take benefit of the reroll and say rerolls to wound. And as soon as you can kill something, then it sort of procs the other way around, and then you sort of like try and reroll once hit rerolls to wound until you like kill something else with the Drukhari. So ideally, you're sort of like starting your shooting phase with like your Harlequin units until you kill something, and then you flip it over into all your MSU Drukhari units to get like the maximum out of them, to flip it again. And then when you go into combat, then you try and like do a Harlequin unit that then gets reroll once to hit and wound to kill their target, that then flips it over into the Drukhari that then get reroll once to hit and wound, but then flip it back, etc., back and forth and back and forth. So
I feel like it's actually this is going to be the skill check of the army, is making this detachment rule actually work.
Yes, and that's the thing that I found. It's very fun and very like rewarding to have that tactical choice as a player, to be like, which units do I need to activate first? What has the higher likelihood of saying killing a unit to then flip it to then get this and that? What I found is that in practice, you roll a cover save here, an invulnerable save there, and your whole plan kind of falls out the window. So and then you leave things with like 1 or 2 wounds left alive here or there. So it's like not as efficient as it sounds in practice. But it does really ramp up the like efficiency of some units, like Skyweaver jet bikes, right? Like all those haywire cannons that are rerolling once to hit, rerolling once to wound, makes them very efficient into shooting. Things like void weavers, for example. Or if you get that the Harlequins be winning the wager, a big brick of like Incubi with like Drazar, who get reroll once to hit, +1 to wound, and reroll once to wound, right? And then all of a sudden you have some really heavy hitting units that can do quite a lot of damage.
Yes, you indeed do. I think, the skill check of this army is absolutely reaching out and trying to make the most of these rules. But let's just jump in to the enhancements. I'm going to rip them off the top in a bunch. I'm just going to read all 4, and then you can give me the TLDR, my dude. Arch Raider is up first with 15 points. Harlequins or Drukhari model only. In the declare battle formation step, if the bearer starts the battle embarked within a dedicated transport, that dedicated transport has the Scout's 9 ability. Webway Walker is up next for 15 points. Harlequin or Drukhari model only. Models in the Bearer's unit have the Deep Strike ability. Each time the Bearer's unit is set up on the battlefield using the Deep Strike ability, if that unit is currently losing the wager until the end of the turn, you can reroll charge rolls for that unit. Reaper's Cowl is up next for Harlequins models only for 25 points. Models in the Bearer's unit have Stealth and Infiltrators. Cute. And then lastly, Conductor of Torment for 20 points. Drukhari model only. In your command phase, you can do one of the following. If Drukhari units are currently losing the wager, you can gain 1 pay token. If you do, Drukhari units from your army are now winning the wager. If Drukhari units are currently winning the wager, you can discard 1 pain token. If you do, Harlequin units from your army are now winning the wager. So a bit of a flip it back and have some agency there. But what do you make of these enhancements, mate? And what do you prioritize?
So Arc Raider, excellent. I think that's one of the best ones. Giving a dedicated transport scout, and it can be both Harlequins and Drukhari. Great. I've done it multiple ways. Archon with Incubi, with a Scout Raider, makes it very dangerous, very like aggressive turn 1, turn 2 play to get it into position. You can also do a unit with Cavalite Warriors, scout up onto an objective to sticky it if you go first, or to run away if you don't, things like that. So I really like the Arc Raider detachment. I think it's very, very good. The Webway Walker, also excellent. I've been currently using it in a giant unit of Kabalite Warriors with a Court of the Archon, with an Archon. Being able to deep strike an entire brick of like 15 models as a rapid ingress threat to like sticky a bunch of objectives and then get ready to just like apply pressure to a certain part of the battlefield has proven to be quite strong. I can see that being very useful with like a big Harlequin brick as well, as an example. So I think that one's another one that I'd say very good. The reroll charges comes in every once in a while, depending on what you want as well. But you tend to be using it more as a rapid ingress for a heroic intervention threat or a sticky objectives or something like that.
Yeah, I wish it just had reroll charges all the time on Webway Walker rather than just the TNC of when you come in.
But you've got pain tokens, so if you need it, you just give a pain token, and then it's the Drukhari, right?
Yeah.
And if they're not, then your Drukhari are probably winning the wager anyway, so you get it with Harlequins. So it's like it's very Reaper's Cowl, like when the Detachment first came out, folks were very excited about this announcement, being able to give a big unit of Harlequins infiltrate and stealth. In theory, awesome, puts a lot of pressure. In practice, you're literally putting a 250-point unit of tissue paper, like close to your opponent. If you don't go first, they just all die, right?
Yeah.
And then you're 250 points in the hole. I think that in this one, it's not worth the points, in my opinion. I think that you're better off just, if you're taking a big brick, just hiding it and not committing it until like turn 3 or 4.
Correct.
As for Conductor of Torment, you know what? Yeah, some people really like it. I've used it. I've dropped it from my list since I started using it. I've been talking a lot with Cody Giroux, who's really been doing a lot of work with Reaper's Wager, and he's really sort of developing a list. He's having a lot of fun with it. And originally in the list that he'd shared with me and he was using, he had Conductor of Torment. Since then, we both kind of like got worked away from it because the benefit of what you get just didn't really like add up to the points that you were paying for it at the end of the day.
Okay, fair. All right, moving on to the enhancements, the first of which is Malicious Frenzy for 1 CP. It happens in your shooting phase or the fight phase. One Drukhari Harlequins unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot or fight. Select lethal hits or sustained hits. Until the end of the phase, weapons equipped by models in your unit have the selected ability. So it's 1 CP, shooting or fight phase. Just pick a keyword that you like. I don't mind this. It's fine.
Oh, this is good. A lot of the Grotmas detachments got something very similar to this.
Yeah.
Right? I do love the fact that it's usable in shooting and or combat.
Yeah, me too.
And it really changes the math on a couple of things. Like, I've been loving my Void Raven Bombers still, and being able to like
maniac
put a pain token on a Void Raven Bomber, give it sustained hits, and then put like each gun into 2 little 5-man units, and just like almost guarantee you're going to wipe out 5-man units with sustained hits is very, very good.
Yeah. Yep. What's the next one, brother?
The next one is Fateful Roll. This is when in the fight phase, just after an enemy unit has selected its targets, you target 1 Drukhari or Harlequin unit from your army that was selected as the target of one or more of these attacks. And until the end of the phase, each time a model in your unit is destroyed, if that model has not fought this phase, and adding +1 to the roll if that unit is losing the wager, on a 4+, you do not remove it from play. The destroyed model can fight after the attacking model's unit has finished making its attacks and then is removed from play. So a 1 CP fight on death for 4+, not terrible when you're really squishy,
Yeah.
And of course it gets better if you're losing the wager, but it does mean that like, if somebody catches your incubi brick out, and charges them in or whatever, at least you can be like, oh, I'm just gonna, make them fight on death at least and hopefully do a little bit of damage or something. So it always makes people think twice about, are they willing to risk taking damage by fighting you?
I'm happy they've got this, but I'm not sure it's going to be all that valuable a lot of the time.
I'll tell you right now that this detachment uses command points like nobody's business. Like you want to use all of these strats.
Exactly right.
So like this fight on death, like I've used it maybe once, because I always want to use sustained or lethals or the other ones that we'll see.
I just see you being able to do so many more proactive things with your CP rather than something that's reactive like this. But the next one is Murderous Circus, which is 1 CP. It's in the fight phase just after an enemy unit has selected its targets. 1 Harlequins or Drukhari unit from your army that was selected as a target of one of those attacks until the end of the phase. -1 hit. So it's fight phase only, and it's essentially lightning fast reaction. So 1 CP, -1 hit in the fight phase. It is not bad. It's fine.
Yeah, it's good. It's good when you look at the fact that you can use it on all the Coven units, right? So then Talos, Grotesque,
true.
like all the big things. Like it's like the Lightning Fast reactions is not Coven, right? So this actually gives some of your tougher units a little bit of a more of a boost. So you don't get the -1 to wound, but like in a pinch, changing the math, going from 3s to 4s or from 4s to 5s, like when you're trying to save a unit, this has has an impact.
Yeah, totally agree. All right, second last one.
Shorten the odds. Third to last, right?
Third to last, correct.
Yeah. 1 CP. It is when in your movement phase, just after a Drukhari Harlequin unit from your army has advanced.
Oh boy.
That unit, until the end of the turn, your unit is eligible to shoot and declare a charge in its turn in which it advanced.
There we go. There's the ring-a-ding winner. That's what we're spending our CP on.
Advance, shoot, and charge on any unit. Talos is one of the favorite things that I love it on. Like being able to yeet the unit of Talos up and shoot and then charge this unit of Talos is phenomenal. Brilliant. And
Absolutely
then you give like their Haywire guns sustained hits or something. All of a sudden, they just get stupid. It's really fun. I love this stratagem so much.
And this is just one of the stratagems that you're like, why would I want to do this reactive stuff when I can just yeet my stuff at people surgically, perfectly fast? Yeah,
a beast pack. I'll tell you, a beast pack with Scout 9, move 12, advance and charge, and reroll charges for free is phenomenal. It goes so fast.
All right, next up is a scintillating tempo. 1 CP, your movement phase or the charge phase. So your charge phase, just after a Drukhari Harlequins unit from your army is selected to make a normal advance or fallback move, is set up on the battlefield or declares a charge. That unit, to the end of the enemy turn, until the end of the turn, that enemy cannot use the Fire Overwatch stratagem to shoot your unit. So you move, advance, charge, do any old thing, arrive from reserve, you point 1 CP, point at a unit, you can't Overwatch me, mate.
Yeah. No, I love it.
Very necessary.
It's very good. I absolutely love. It's like you've got Nightmare Shroud in normal Sky lists, right, for the one unit, but being able to just do it ad nauseum for like any unit, like and it because you can use it in multiple phases. Like you could use it on a unit in the movement phase and move up and be like, okay, this unit's going to be immune, and then say your opponent like rapid ingress is a unit that's good at Overwatching on the other side of the table for another unit. You could very easily make another unit immune to Overwatch in the charge phase, and you'd be like, oh, and now this unit's now immune to your Overwatch as well. So and considering there's so many flamers out there and things that just like do silly things with Overwatch or Necrons and things like that, anyway, good riddance to Overwatch. I like it.
What's the last one?
The last one, Dance Macabre. It's in your opponent's movement phase, just after enemy unit ends a normal advance or fallback move. 1 Drukhari infantry or Harlequin infantry unit that was within 9 of that enemy unit. Your unit can make a normal move up to D6 inches or 6 inches if you're losing the wager for 2 CP. So it's a 2 CP reactive move for infantry only. Sadly, I haven't used it like almost at all. It is quite nice that you can reactive move back into a transport. However, most competitive players will just not let you do whatever and will just murder your whole toughness 3 unit instantly. And
I do not know why this is 1 CP. So this is 2 CP and not 1 CP. I don't get it. It's not that good of a reactive move. If you could have reactive moved into combat or something, which is what I expected when I started reading this, and I saw the 2 CP first, I was like, yeah, cool. They could probably make a reactive move that could also be a surge move
or something.
It's a reactive or surge move. You just get to pick your poison. That would have been cool. But yeah, this is trash because it's 2 CP. If it was 1 CP, it would be very, very usable. At 2 CP, you got so many better things to be doing.
Yeah. All in all, out of 6 strats, like you've got about 4 of them that are very good. And then 2 of them are like, okay, you'll use them if they come up ever. That sort of thing.
Correct. Which is about the going rate.
Yeah.
But that brings us to the end of the review of the content of the detachment. So it's time for us to do our rankings and ratings, my dude, before we sign out. Out of 10 as a Drukhari player, and speaking on behalf of Drukhari player, as their Lord and Master Archon of Pomera, how would you rate this out of 10? 10 being the on-release 9th edition Drukhari Codex, which is the best codex I've ever had, and 0 being the on-release codex in 3rd edition when they first came out, which was
so I'll give it a 7 for flavor, and I'm going to give it a 6 for power.
Okay.
Yeah, like I don't like it's above average. It's okay. You know what I mean? Like it's not a dud, but it's not like something that's gonna get you out of a pinch if you're already in a pinch, sort of thing.
Fair.
You know?
Fair. And on the competitive tier list, so from D tier all the way up to S tier, where would you put an army playing the Reaper's Wager?
At the moment?
Yeah, in the current meta. Right
yeah,
this
at
second.
the moment, I put it in like high C tier. Like C tier, low B tier, like maybe even low B tier, if there's something like that, you know.
low B tier. or is that just upper C tier?
At a competitive level, I think it's like up C tier, low B tier.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's in that sort of range.
I wouldn't be surprised if Drukhari was the best C tier army in the game at the moment. Because they
Drukhari
do have
good.
they have such a high ceiling.
It's one of those things where like I say it's C tier, you know, but if I were to play it, it's probably like B mid B, you know, whatever it is, or like top B. You know, it's just it is definitely one of those things that it doesn't let you make a lot of mistakes, right?
Nah, not at
and
all.
you're going to run out of stuff very quickly if you play it wrong.
Indeed. Well, on that note, we are going to go talk about some of those things you can do to not play it wrong, how you may go about building your Reaper's Wager archetype list, and also pluck some of the juicy matchup knowledges, bits and pieces from Drukhari's wonderful brain. Thank you so much for joining us, my man. This is the end of this episode, guys, and you will be hearing this the week after LVO, so hopefully you all enjoyed your LVO experience, had a great freaking time, and enjoyed the Games Workshop coverage. It means Skari will probably hanging out at some point during that weekend, high-fiving and talking about his games.
That's right. It's going to be a good time. Hope to see you. Well, hope I saw you there, basically.
I hope I saw you there too, mate. Anyway, take care, guys. Enjoy the song and look after each other. Bye.